That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia. This is Houston, AOS over.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the TKW Podcast. It's Thanksgiving morning. We are recording before the wine and the stuffing and the turkey and whatnot comes out. I'm Anthony Corbo. I've got Kyle Maggio here with me.
What's going on, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody else listening.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you as well, man. And we are coming into the holiday pretty stoked. I mean, we got a big Celtics win to celebrate last night. Some things looked legit very good there. I don't. Do you have any hot points you wanted to drop at the very start here?
Just really quickly, because we're going to probably spend a lot of time talking about the Trey Burke aspect of the game. One thing that I enjoyed was Kevin Knox, not just, again, scoring in double digits, but showing a little bit of assertion with the rebounding prowess. He finished with 9 rebounds yesterday, so that was encouraging. He was 3 of 5 from the field. He got to the line 4 times. So those are the kinds of games that I'd expect him to have and that I'd hope for him to have. So that was like a small encouraging thing for me. He mostly got rolling in the second half there, but that was something I liked. And
His
Noah
stroke?
Vonleh.
Oh, yeah.
Was it? No, and Vonleh was just a terror. I mean, his defensive versatility was on full display yesterday. Not just in the shots he swatted, which were 3, but he was a menace on the defensive boards. He was shooting from outside a little bit again. He's got a nice little inside-out game as a stretch 4, and his switchability on D is something it's really useful for a lot of teams in this league. So it's fun that we get to watch that night in and night out on a pretty bad team here. So seeing him do well again, because he had a pretty damn good game against his former team, the Blazers, the other night, that, seeing him just continue to do work against good teams, as he's done all year, has been something that's really fun. So outside of that, Timmy had a bad game by his standards lately, 8 of 19 from the field, and he still finished with 21, 4 and 4 in almost 38 minutes of play. So outside of that, what did you see?
So, yeah, you could tell that Knox is looking really good out there. His 3-point shot, it looks good. He looks really confident in it. He looks like he is. It's the shots are falling for him. It looks like it's parlaying over, the more confidence that he's going to be able to build. I think the more shots he's going to be able to take, the better shots he's going to take, and he just looks like he fit into the flow of an offense pretty well. Tim Hardaway, I did look a little bit minimized. He wasn't really out there for the stretches that he normally gets hot in, but it's mostly due to Trey Burke having such an overwhelming offensive performance and just other guys cooking. But to what you were saying about Vonleh, I think that, and I was saying this last night in the chat, and I think kind of last night helped me realize, but I think rim protection is this team's biggest asset moving forward. I think that it's the one thing that this team really actually has a strength in, compared to either just being like mediocre or below average at every other thing on the court.
How funny is that? That's
I know
KP.
I know that's what I'm getting to. Even it's just like you got Mitchell Robinson, who already is like a terror down there. Clyde was even saying last night that he is like nobody wants to go inside because he's down there. Like he's already that kind of a interior threat, and he's 16, 17 games into his career. That's incredibly impressive, and he doesn't have a ton else that you can say he can do night in and night out with this game right now, but just having that one big facet right there is huge. And then you add Noah Vonleh onto that, who is not always a rim protecting force, but last night certainly proved to be, and has the physical gifts to be as well. And then you even have long guards like Frank Ntilikina, who if he's taking someone to the rim, if they're driving, he can absolutely block their shot before it goes up. So and then like you were saying too, it's just that's without KP being in there even. So I think this is a very legitimate strength to look at moving forward with Knicks.
It is, and I'll repeat, it just makes me laugh because we thought for sure, and we knew what Mitchell Robinson could potentially bring, and we knew what Vonleh could potentially bring, but how good they've been at rim protection with guys who are slated to be fringe or backup or have minimal roles for them to step in and not only be good at it, but almost elite at it. If you're going to be a guy like Robinson, is when he's not fouling, and again, there's going to be inconsistencies all year, but when he's not fouling, I mean, he's in there for like 15, 20 minutes, and he's blocking like 3 or 4 shots. Now, one little stat I wanted to lay on everybody, courtesy of our Jack Huntley. You can follow him on Twitter at Knicks_nuance. Mitchell Robinson's block percentage after last night was 9.6%. The other players that have done that are Hassan Whiteside in 2015-16, Manute Bol, who did 7 times, so, that's obvious. Serge Ibaka in 2011-2012, Alonzo Mourning in 05-06, Jim McIlvaine in 95-96, to which Jack said who, and John Henson in 15-16. So he's in some good company.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just, we talked about it in the Summer League, and we've tried to throw a wet blanket on it, and there's going to be games like, the ones last week where he struggles and he comes in for 5 minutes and fouls 3 times, and then he sits on the bench for most of the rest of the games. There's going to be a lot of games like that this year. He's learning. But when he's not doing that, we've seen his instincts on full display, the ones that we saw in Summer League and the preseason that were so encouraging. And it's just a joy. It's just, to me, it's just not that it was unexpected, but it's unexpected that it was this good, this quick. So yeah, that's just, and to do it against Boston. Well, Boston, while they're supposed to be a contender or we're supposed to be a tanking team, I will gladly put the tank on hold anytime we play Boston.
I agree with that. Let's pull back on all the details real quick because we got to get into. We haven't even they kicked the shit out of Boston last night, and there was definitely moments where it got very close and it got very scary, especially at the end there. And Boston had a bunch of runs in them in that second half that they were able to go on, but. All in all, I mean, the Knicks were holding a 26-point lead at certain points in the game. That's insane this year against Boston. This was a throwaway game. I think everyone kind of knew that they could tune out of this game last night because they could just go to the bar, they could go do their thing, they could, everyone's going out. No one really thought to pay attention to this Knicks game, and then all of a sudden they put a wallop on Boston, and it was just good to see. It's good to see in front of the Boston crowd. Like you said, I'm all for the tank, but it's really these games, and Boston especially, but really with any kind of high profile team that they're going up against, when they're showing me cohesiveness on the court, and they're showing me that this Knicks lineup is showing me that they have teammates that they mesh well with out there, and they're able to get up and down the floor in transition, and they actually can run at least decent pick and roll sets with each other. It's I want them to win those games. I get encouraged by those games. The whole point is for them to be getting better out there over the course of this year. I'll put the tank on hold for them to win the games where I see them being very engaged in and very competitive in. And last night was definitely one of them. And they really just willed themselves to victory against the Celtics group that are known to be struggling right now.
Yeah, it'll always be fun. It'll always be encouraging when they beat Boston, especially when Boston's good. Ben Simmons noted, and he leans into it. So I know everyone likes to slam him for being a homer, but that's his brand. He does it on purpose. It's his thing. I don't think he's as delusional as everybody makes him out to be. I'm pretty sure he just does it on purpose for the sake of content. But sometimes it comes back to bite him in the ass, like when they drafted, I think that kid James Young.
Wait, to be clear, you're talking Bill Simmons, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when he did the little fist pump on national TV because he thought he got this sensational prospect, and then Young flamed out relatively quickly, had to bounce around to the G League, but then this summer he goes, or right before the season started, he was on that show with Jalen and Jacoby, and he was talking about the Celtics season outlook, and he said the Celtics going to win 67 games. Take the over. They're going to win 67 games, and I don't know.
It's just a preposterous number to predict.
It is. Look, if you would have said over 60,
sure,
sure, but 67 is bordering greatest team ever territory.
That's
now you're in the Bulls and the Warriors range,
right?
It's just not there.
The Warriors with their struggles this year might not even make 67, and you think that Boston can do it with far worse struggles?
Yeah, and so it's always enjoyable because then all summer, all over Twitter, we had Celtics analysts, Celtics fans parading around saying this team is clearly the best team in the East. Toronto can't compete. Philly can't compete. This was going to be a cakewalk back to the Eastern Conference Finals. There's too much talent. Gordon Hayward's back mixed with what we saw last year. Kyrie's healthy.
They get put in the Trey Burke blender.
And they get it was a beatdown in Beantown by Trey Burke. I mean, it is just...
It's wild.
It's beautiful. It is
beautiful.
You got beat by mid-range Trey, and now we can start to talk about Trey Burke. Trey Burke had 29 points in 32 minutes. He had 6 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals. He was 11 of 20 from the field, which is 55%. He was 3 of 3 from the line, 4 of 6 from deep, which I want to circle back to that in a second.
Yep.
But
bold threes.
When we went to media day, I specifically asked Trey Burke, and I said, are you looking to change your shot profile up this year? Because the mid-range, while good, is typically not, at the rate which you hit it last year isn't a sustainable rate. So are you looking to step back behind the three-point line a little bit, to kind of evolve your offense a little bit and hopefully grow and grow as a player and help this team a little bit more because it's something that, they need to be doing? And he said, yeah, I'm absolutely looking to do that. And you always got to take those things with a grain of salt because a lot of times players will say things that they don't actually mean. It's a nice soundbite. They always want to say they worked on their game or they worked on things they want to do for the future. But Trey has, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I'm just pulling it up now to make sure, but he is, in fact, shooting threes at a higher clip this year. And now I have the numbers in front of me. So, where is it? So last year he shot. Well, actually, he's mostly on par.
It's about the same. Yeah. But what's interesting to me about his field goal percentage is the slight downshift from an unsustainable, 50.3% last year, in his 36 games to now, 16 games into the season, he's shooting 47. But even with the 3% drop in accuracy from the field overall, his 3-point percentage has gone up even slightly. So it's an interesting case to see. I think we're looking at potentially a more sustainable Trey Burke now.
He just looks. I mean, last year he looked pretty patient as well. This is the thing to me is that what's surprising is he mostly looks like the same guy as he did last year. And I think that's what's surprising. And
right. That's exactly it, because no one thought it could continue.
And as far as the threes go, while he's shooting about half a three more per game on the season, but the last 3 games, he's upped it. So last night in Boston, he was 4 of 6 from deep. So he had 6 attempts. The game in Portland the night before, he was 3 of 5. So 6 and 5 attempts are always good. You want to see that amount. And then in Orlando, he was 1 of 7 from deep, which is not accurate, but the fact that he's willing to take this many threes consistently, and it seems to be an effort to take those threes, because last night he was making a conscious effort on a lot of those step backs to really get behind the line, where normally he would create some space and just take that mid-range, but last night he was creating some space and then stepping way back behind the 3-point line.
And he adjusted as the game went on too, because I'm not even gonna lie, like I was very frustrated with watching Trey Burke play to start the game, because while Boston was very stagnant to come out of the gate too, the Knicks were starting to capitalize on it, and Trey Burke was still, just running, just pounding the ball into the ground, not looking at the rim until he's, in the paint already and surrounded by defenders and not being able to find the passing lane. And I even wrote down when I was taking a couple of notes during the game, I'm just like, this dude looks like he has no court vision. Alonzo Trier was making better passes than him to start the game. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed to click for him. And, not even very showingly or anything, but just kind of quietly slipped into his offense and, started being able to space the ball well. There were still definitely a lot of moments out there, especially in the third when the Celtics started getting on their run and kind of into the fourth a bit, where I could see the momentum slipping away from the Knicks, and that led to a lot more Trey Ball just pounding the rock into the ground, which you really don't want to see, and just not looking for the proper pass, just looking to score himself and everything, which has obviously been effective the last couple of games, but he ended up pulling it all together. He had 11 assists last night. I think anytime I could see him as a passer or, as a real floor general, that's when I'm going to get most excited. I know he can score. I can believe in him scoring at this point. He's played 52 games with the Knicks so far. I think we see what he is and see what he's capable of. I think it's honestly pretty real. So as long as he finds himself, as long as they can figure out where he needs to be, whether it's starting, whether it's coming off the bench, like who he's going to be playing with, I think there's a lot of factors that play into what make Trey Burke's game, work for him. So let's hopefully hope they can figure out something that maintains this success pretty soon.
Yeah, so over his last 4 games, Burke is averaging about 26 points per game, and he's shooting. This is where it's going to sound unsustainable again. So now he's shooting as a whole from the field. He's like, it's roughly 57, 58% from the field. So, I mean, that's preposterous for a guard. Like,
right.
A good shooting number for a guard from the field is like mid to high 40s, because you're going to be taking a lot of perimeter shots, a lot of contested shots. That's just any guard. You can some minimize it for sure, but unless you're Kevin Durant, like shooting 50% plus as a guard is not something that you expect to do regularly. So Trey Burke, the mid-range god, shooting 57-ish% from the field is just absolutely preposterous. But either way, last night, another good thing about him, too, was just the playmaking. Because after you said about his adjusting, so that was nice as well. I agree. And it's just fun. And I think the strangest part of me enjoying this is that all the guards so far that Fizdale's been trying out and trying to rotate and try, they've all had these spurts of good play. And it seems like they're just taking over at different times. So Frank had his little spurt to start the year.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to kind of say I agree with that. I think that Burks has been the most explosive. He's had a couple of different points where his offense has just burst out and then gone away. So that's what we have to look out for. But continue what you were saying about the other guards.
No, I just think it's funny how we kind of thought for sure, not that it would be a slam dunk that Frank would start and exceed everybody, but we thought it was going to be a slam dunk in the sense that this was a developmental year. Frank will probably get the starting nod.
Which, again, only 16 or however many games into the season at this point.
Right.
So.
Right. But then it's just funny how, they gave Frank the reins. They started him out in the wing. Then they bump him over to point guard. Frank plays pretty well in that stretch. And then pretty miserably in his starting stretch after that. Those little 5-game bits of starting. The former half was good. The latter half was bad. But then there's a little bit of a transition period where nobody's making a lot of noise. And then Moutier comes back in. And Moutier has this 3 or 4 game stretch. And I wanted to touch on Moutier today, too, briefly, because he's played outside of last night where he didn't really do a whole hell of a lot, which he didn't have to because...
There were even still some moments, and surprisingly on the defensive end, where I saw Moutier come to life last night. But
And I just want to go on... The reason I wanted to bring this up was twofold. One, because he actually deserves, obviously, very clearly, in my opinion, to be talked about. But the other thing is we spent a lot of time last year for good reasons, and then this summer predicting that he would be terrible and not very good. And even in the preseason, we did it. And, the beginning of the regular season, I was joking around about his injury being fake because they're probably going to cut him or move him. And he's come back in, and he's been pretty damn good. I mean, offensively, it's always the easiest thing to pick out, and he's scoring in double digits pretty regularly. He's been pretty damn efficient. He's shooting over 50% this season. And it's just
he seems like
it's nice.
Yeah, he seems like he's kind of fitting in a little bit. Like he has been one of the more steady passers on this team, and in moments when the offense really starts to stagnate out there, he seems to be Fizdale's answer.
He really whips the ball around. His assist numbers don't show it, but it's night and day when you see him in versus when you see Frank and Trey Burke in. And I know Burke had a nice assist night last night, but I just mean generally speaking.
Burke is still such an attack-first kind of presence that other guys can tend to stick around when he's just kind of pounding that ball in. But again, it's about how he adjusts and how he's able to control that. And Moutier has to do the same thing. Like he has like one move under the basket, and it's like he kicks his leg out. He does like a windmill kind of around the basket layup. And other than that, he's just basically whipping the ball around the court, like you said, which is good in moments when you need to get it unstuck, but it's definitely not beneficial all the time. And then with Frank, you just see like I was pretty impressed with Frank last night. He was still kind of under the radar, but he did have a couple of plays, especially in the third and fourth, and especially defensively, where he was able to seal that victory. I felt for the Knicks. There's one play where Celtics got a steal and we're going on a fast break, and it was just Horford and Frank up the court, and Frank just locked him up and stopped the ball from going in. And it's just plays like that like Frank is just falling into that niche as this team's primary defender. And I'll take that while I wait for the offense to come along. There's so many other question marks on this team that are not going to get solved just because Frank Ntilikina suddenly figures out this game. Give me that elite level defense right now, and then we'll work towards everything else.
I know that I've been a big proponent, especially early in the season, of sort of mocking people who thought he wasn't a point guard. But my Twitter persona is I like to have a lot of jokes, like to have a lot of fun. But on the pod, I like to be more realistic and kind of really fact check it a little bit. And honestly, when I watch Frank sometimes, I can see the off-ball wing argument so clearly. And that's kind of what I saw last night. And, and the thing is, as much as I believe he's better suited to play the point guard, as much as I want him to succeed at that position, if his strengths ultimately end up being that he's just a Swiss Army knife who plays three different positions and plays them all pretty well, and his offense slowly comes along, and if that's what this ends up being,
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. Given what you're getting on defense, he's got some basic playmaking chops that we see from time to time. But I mean, the biggest thing is it'll always be the scoring. If he just needs to score 10 to 12 consistently a night with his defense, and then that'll be enough to really make significant impact on both ends. Because it's tough sometimes when defense, opposing teams can sort of game plan around you to a certain degree. They can. We saw it with Kawhi in San Antonio 2 years ago, and what teams would do would be they'd almost push Kawhi's matchup to a corner, or they try to isolate a certain action to get Kawhi away from the ball. And you can sort of do that with Frank sometimes, but when you're able to impact the game offensively as well, I mean, you can't do that. So ultimately, I hope he succeeds. It doesn't matter really what the position is, but
I agree with you though. Like my thinking is that I don't really care where Frank, however he progresses is fine. Do you know how rare it is to get a defender that can comfortably guard, three spots and even do it at an elite level some nights, and we'll see where he even could progress to. Like that's an incredible tool for the Knicks to have, even if he comes off the bench. Like even if he doesn't end up being a starter long term for this team, and he just goes out there and gives you 20 hard defensive minutes, like that's going to be really valuable for the Knicks moving forward. And though it's hard to find those kinds of players out there, and if that's what Frank is, that's what Frank is. But there are other points of his game that have been coming along, like you were saying. He's got some playmaking chops. We want to see him be able to look more confident when displaying those. Last night, he was kind of pulling up on some shots last night, and that was pretty encouraging too. There's one where I saw him dribble through a screen and then kind of get some open space in the mid range, and he actually pulled up on that jumper. There's another play where he came off the screen and rolled to the rim and like had just a gorgeous finish at the rim because he has huge arms and he's like friggin' tall for a point guard. So like he's got the tools to be a good interior player. He's got the tools to be able to really shoot and score and play from anywhere on the court. It's just he seems so hesitant to do so. And go ahead.
I was going to say the last thing on the defensive point that you brought up too was there was at least 3 specific plays where you could directly attribute the defensive stop to Frank defending. There was that Horford fast break that you brought up. There was another possession where he just absolutely put the clamps on Tatum, who is grossly elusive for his age, and basically Tatum tried to do like a little post up, and then he couldn't get anywhere in Frank, so he tried to do a little, outward spin to get to the top of the key, and then shoot a little fadeaway jump shot, and Frankie stuck with him. Didn't block the shot, but I mean, just contested it heavily, and it was a miss. And then there was the end of the first when the Celtics were trying to get it up court quickly, and Hayward came down, kind of pumped Frankie. Frankie didn't go for it. He tried to take Frankie, and Frankie didn't, allow him to come in again. So then Hayward had to, be forced to a step back jumper, which Frank contested heavily, and it was a brick by Hayward. And it's just like when you're making direct impact like that, it's very, very obvious, but it just makes you salivate a little bit because it's just like, God damn it, bro, just 10 points. Just 10 to 12 points. You're so close.
Yeah.
And my only real worry with him is his confidence. And
right.
The reason I bring that up is him and Knox seem to suffer from that same kind of thing, where they both sort of disappear offensively sometimes. Mm-hmm. And having 2 of those guys can be, and I don't want to worry about Knox too soon because he's still like, this is his first like stretch of real NBA time without the injuries. And he's mostly looked pretty good, inefficient at times, struggling at times, but mostly pretty good. Mm-hmm. And at least for the standards that I had for him, I don't know about you, but he's kind of on par with it. But it's just, you notice these times when, I think in the Orlando game, like Knox just, if I told you Knox didn't play, you probably would have believed me.
The two of them have like this tendency to, when their shots aren't falling or when they, make a couple of mistakes out there, as expected, when they're both, below 20 or 20 and below, they tend to just, try to fit into an offense or try to kind of be invisible and stay out of the way out there instead of, hounding the ball instead of attacking, which is really the big difference, I think, in why Trey Burke can put up so many points like that versus, why these other guys can't. They have different games, but when he starts to struggle, he starts attacking. He becomes more active out there. When they start struggling, they get very passive, and that's definitely a big point they need to correct in their games.
Yep. So I'm just trying to pull up the schedule here. Just want to go over who's upcoming.
Real quick before we get into that, I wanted to talk about this starting lineup real quick before we get too far off of this game. So we had Hezonja come in, we had Kanter make it back in the starting lineup, and then we had Moutier, we had Hardaway, and we had Vonleh. So seems like of all the players who were in there, Vonleh might have even had the biggest impact last night, or at least showed the most effort out there. And then you had Hardaway, like we said, an impactful yet quiet game compared to what we have recognized from him. Kanter had some moments last night too, and I don't really have too much bad to say about him. It's Hezonja that really is interesting to me. because he basically had a DMP besides starting both, 5 minutes on both halves. So, what's going on with these crazy starting lineups that Fizz been rolling out? These DMPs.
Well,
what's he doing here?
Well, first of all, I'm going to step right in for Matt here, who's absent today, and Mario Hezonja stinks, and it just stinks, and it pains me. I think it didn't pain Matt. I don't think Matt was ever in on Hezonja, and I don't think I was ever in on Hezonja either. But I thought he'd be an interesting and fun player.
Give him the benefit of the doubt. He played a lot at the 4. Yeah, he played over 50% of his minutes at the 4 last year in Orlando, which seemed to be part of the reason for his resurgence last year. And I was hopeful that in a more up-tempo system with Fizdale playing the same position, even though it's a tank year, the roster isn't too talented around him, I thought we'd see more out of him. And he has just been just brutal, to be honest with you. He looks lost on both ends of the floor. He's unaware of where to really fit in or how to fit in. He's trying to make things happen offensively as a playmaker like he did in Orlando, and it's just simply not working out here. He seems confused or has a lack of confidence when he does do things a lot of times. We see certain games. It's like 1 out of every 5 or 6 games that he plays where he seems to just make clear-cut, simple decisions. If he's going to go and drive to the rack, he's driving right to the rack and he's going to finish. And then there's other games where he drives to the rack and suddenly he hesitates and double clutches and then looks to kick out, but then decides to shoot at the last second. So he tries to think way too hard about his game sometimes, and he just ends up getting stuck.
It's detrimental at this point. I don't see how any of the minutes that he's really played, I don't see how you can justify playing him almost at all, to be honest with you. And as you know, and you're also in on this, we've been big Damyean Dotson fans, whole team Dot. And it just seems inevitable at this point that, Fizdale's just kind of given his tryout, as he's done with all the players this year. Hezonja's the 12th different Knick to start this season in the starting lineup. So Fizdale is definitely spreading that around. He's trying to give everybody a chance and then eliminate everybody from it. I guess he's gonna start pulling people back soon.
Is this basically like his last? Because I keep saying we're 16 games in, but we're actually 19 games in, which shows you how fast things are moving. And but does this mean that Fizz is kind of looking at this like his last stand here? He's making this is kind of the last few crazy starting lineups and DMPs he's going to roll out, and playing most of the roster every night before he really starts to shorten up his rotations.
I think so. I mean, there's a quote. He's on record as saying that around game 25 or so, he wants to have a set starting lineup. And to me, I honest to God, while I think they should roll with Frank for developmental purposes, considering Moutier and Burke likely won't be here next year, I wouldn't be surprised by whoever he chooses for the point guard spot, but it really seems clear as day to me who's going to go with the rest of the lineup. I mean, he's done some foreshadowing, right? So he says that he's not going to start Mitchell Robinson for the foreseeable future. This was another quote because, his tendency to foul too quickly. He gets in the game, he picks up 2 quick fouls more often than he doesn't, and then he's got to take a seat to the end of the first half. And so we know Cantor's going to be back in, right? And we know Tim Hardaway Jr. is going nowhere from the starting lineup. So that's 2 out of the 5. And then, honestly, to me, it just looks like Knox is playing well enough that they're going to keep him in somehow. So I think Knox is going to get the 4. But outside of that, I mean, Dotson's got to start. Unless Courtney Lee comes back, but even still, I don't see how he fits in anymore. And
I don't either.
Hezonja's done nothing to prove that he deserves not only a starting spot, but really any playing time. So to me, it's got to be some sort of Timmy. It's going to be some sort of Timmy, Dotson, Knox, Cantor, and then whoever he decides to roll with at point. But I just don't. We saw such a dominant stretch from Dotson when he was playing significant minutes and starting. he had in his last couple of games, he tailed off a little bit with the scoring, but yeah, I mean, what we saw as a whole was on both sides of the ball was inevitable, and it's just there's nothing Hezonja has done to warrant taking that spot from him going forward.
Well, to be fair, I do feel like this is Hezonja's last start. And yeah, he might get some decent minutes off the bench and stretches moving forward, but I think this was probably his last chance to become a significant part of this rotation. I just don't see it happening for him. As far as Dotson is concerned, I am okay with the move of removing him from the starting lineup. And I actually think that Fizz is going to be rolling out of the lineup of, probably Burke at point guard, but insert whoever, maybe Moutier. And then you got Tim Hardaway. I think Knox is going to be at the 3, and I think they're going to stick with Vonleh in the starting lineup and then go Cantor afterwards. It's not ideal, but it seems to be that Fizz likes that lineup, and there are games where it works, like last night's game. So I think that I understand Dotson coming out of the starting lineup, and I just don't understand the DNPs. I don't understand how you can't even work this guy into the rotation after he came out so hot and then started to tail off, which makes me think that he'll be back within the next couple of games or so. But I could see him more. I could see more of Knox starting at the 3, which seems to make more sense to me given where he should be naturally playing at this point, and seeing a slightly bigger front court going out there.
See, I'm not really that hung up on the DNPs just because of the way Fizdale's handled this this situation all year. Yeah, it's just the way he's done things isn't the way of like a traditional team trying to win. I mean, they've talked about development and talked about basically trying guys out, and this was an experimental year, and the way he's coached has largely reflected that because he'll purposefully make decisions that aren't maybe the wisest a lot of times. And I'm not trying to just give him the full benefit of the doubt because there's some times when he's clearly trying to win and makes an incorrect choice. But, just when a guy like Dotson comes in and for 5 or 6 or 7 straight games is scoring, 14 to 15 plus points, giving you 5 or 6 rebounds and playing stout defense, shooting the hell out of the ball from deep. And then he goes right back to the bench for DNPs. There's no way that they're punishing him. You know what I mean? It's like there have to be conversations behind closed doors that are just like, hey, we're not sitting you because you stink. You know what kind of a season this is. I'm going to give Mario
100%, yeah.
And then if he just to see what he's got, and then you know what I mean? Like the results are too in your face. They're too obvious. So for certain guys like that, like for Timmy, obviously he's balling out of his mind. Of course he's going to stay. Of course. Dotson, he finally gets his chance and he just kills it. Both sides of the ball on the glass. Of course he's going to be back in to some degree. So once that's, I know we've had fun all year. Every time a new starting lineup comes out, I'll tweet something like I feel nauseous or let's get weird. So, I mean, it's been fun to see the experimenting, sometimes stressful, but ultimately I think we can actually start critiquing after that 25-ish game mark when he starts to really make a decision. So I don't want to get too panicky.
No, but it's important to recognize now.
It is because I hate seeing it too. Like, Dotson's my guy. And when a young guy like that comes in and just kills it, and not just kills it because you could always shoot well for stretches, but the constant activity and effort as a guard to make sure, well, I mean, he played the 3, but he's a 2/3. Right. The effort to always hit the glass as a young wing, to make sure, like, look, I'm young. I got to make the most of these minutes. I got to find ways to impact the game, even if I'm not getting the ball. So the way he cuts helps the offense out with the spacing and the ball movement. The way he hits the glass helps the team because
he plays with like an effort that you see for like a 6-year player or something like that. He's got great vision out there.
Exactly. And the defensive prowess, he's always getting over or under screens. He's plowing through. He's chasing his guy around the court baseline. He's just kind of a joy to watch out there with the energy that he brings. And it just feels like guys like him, there's no way that they're going to sit on the bench for that long. So I hope to see him back sooner rather than later. I think the games are a lot more fun when he's playing, to be honest with you. I think the ball moves better. I think the offense looks better. just having a guy like that in to space the floor and bring that sort of energy, not from, the point guard position or somewhere else. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's important to kind of keep a lookout at, like, this is the week where we're going to hit that 25 game mark, or within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
this is the last week of like the weird experimenting.
Right.
Well, the big time experiment.
That's what's really important to keep an eye on here is, do the rotations get shorter from here? Do players start to really know their role on this team moving forward? This is when we're going to be able to honestly know what this team is going to look like, through the rest of the season. But anyway, all right. Do you have anything else you wanted to get to from last night's game, or you want to just run through the schedule real quick?
No, that's about it. The next game is Friday at MSG.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing the New Orleans Pelicans, which, if we remember, the last game in New Orleans was pretty fun, and it was a battle. Knicks led most of that game, only to end up losing in the last couple of minutes because Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis.
He's going to hang another 45 on us.
It's just, he did it last year at the Garden. I was actually at that game, and he was I think he went for 45 or 46.
He's the most destructive player that the Knicks can go up against. Like, whether he's hanging 45, whether he's just straight up taking players out.
And that was when KP was healthy still. It was last January, and he just, it did not matter. He was hitting fadeaways. You just simply could not stop that guy.
He is probably my favorite player in the league right now.
Honestly, yeah. Like, non-Knicks, he's probably...
For a long time now, I've loved Anthony Davis.
I agree. I think my non-Knicks list, it's very short, but Dame Lillard's up there.
Yes.
Underappreciated. I love Anthony Davis, but... Boogie Cousins was up there forever too, but now he's injured. But anyway, so we get the rematch with New Orleans on Friday, so that should be good. Just trying to check the rest of the schedule here.
We've got after that we got Grizzlies on Sunday, who are surprisingly resurgent. I'm excited to finally get to see Jaren Jackson Jr. play a little bit. I've heard he's had a great start to his rookie season, so I'm excited for that. After that, we got Knicks Pistons coming up on Tuesday the 27th. So another Blake game. That is at Detroit, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like a road trip. They're going to go Memphis, Detroit,
yep.
Philly, and then they're back home against Milwaukee and Washington. So that's kind of a tough stretch, to be honest with you. I don't expect a whole lot of wins, but if you don't expect a whole lot of wins, then you might as well get the rest of the experimenting out of your system. And then,
well, you know what? They didn't expect to beat Boston either. And
this is true.
Yeah, we'll see if this momentum can kind of carry them over. If they can have a big game against the Pelicans, like, that puts them in good position against the Grizzlies, and it just builds up from there. It could also go the exact opposite direction, but there's a chance at least.
After that game against Milwaukee, they have, and Washington is a very talented team that beat the crap out of the Knicks earlier this year, but I want to maintain that they've been struggling. But after that, they have a game at Boston, and then there's a very winnable stretch of games after Fizdale had... Yeah, well, Fizdale said around game 25, which is around that Washington game, that he's going to have a set starting lineup, he hopes, right? And then after that, we get Brooklyn, Charlotte, Cleveland, Charlotte again, Indiana, and Phoenix. One game against the Sixers, and then Atlanta. So December's looking pretty good as a whole.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity for wins there, or at least closer, more exciting games. But basically,
this January looks insane, though.
Yeah, that's why
Holy shit.
December's kind of a cakewalk, but it'll always bounce out. January was a bitch last year, too.
So it always happens. It always happens. They had a nasty road trip last year. I think they played like 17 games total last January, and I forgot what it was, but it was like 12 or 13 were on the road. It was just brutal. And January looks terrible because that West Coast road trip to start it is brutal. You get Denver, Lakers, Portland, and Golden State to start off your month. So that's just... which goes right into Indiana, who will certainly have it all figured out by then, into Philly, into Washington, into Oklahoma City, Houston, and then it kind of tails off after that. But god damn, that's crazy looking.
Yeah, it's going to be a long month of L's.
Whew.
So that's the outlook. December is going to be fun, I think. with a set starting lineup and in mostly easy schedule, and then January is going to be brutal. So, unless you got anything else, then we can start to plug a little bit.
Well, what's the spread looking like at Maggio today?
Probably going to go to my mom's.
Yep.
And then to my wife's parents' house. And honestly, when I go to my mom's, I like this because my wife is Ecuadorian, so we have a nice contrast because I'm Italian and how the Thanksgivings are run. So when I go to my mom's, while she does do turkey and obviously meat dishes that I don't partake in as I am vegan now, or vegetarian mostly anyway, but my mom makes a lot of pastas. So we have a lot of pasta. Like
nice.
She'll make generally lasagna.
Nice.
For some strange reason to go with all the traditional.
No, I like a Thanksgiving lasagna. I'm a big Italian on Thanksgiving guy.
Listen, Anthony. Me too. but you know how much I enjoy Thanksgiving because you also enjoy Thanksgiving as much as me.
It's my favorite day of the year.
And when you have to plan on having 3 to 4 plates, the lasagna is almost 2 plates in and of itself. And it is dangerous because nobody can resist lasagna.
No.
Lasagna is delicious. So you're not going to take a sliver of lasagna. No, you're not. You're going to take a nice corner slab, plop it down in your plate, eat it, and then decide if you want to go back for another, which you always do. You always go back for the second.
Yeah, I tend to open up with lasagna. Like I'll do my Italian plate first and get it out of the way because lasagna is going to be so heavy, and then I'll go in and because I could eat a pot of mashed potatoes for days or some mac and cheese or something like that. Like that's no problem. It's all the red sauce I got to get out of the way first.
That's fair. And I mean, mostly what I look forward to be honest with you, is the stuffing and the sweet potatoes. I'm a big sides guy.
Yeah.
And I think all the auxiliary pieces.
Are you a stovetop stuffing kind of guy?
I'm really just not picky, to be quite honest with you. With stuffing, I've had it. Again, I don't eat meat now, but my mom used to do like a sausage one.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good move.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty traditional.
But I love the box stuffing. I love stuffing. Yeah, that's just the way to go with it.
Have you had it with the cranberries in it?
Oh yeah. You know what? All right, let me get your take on this real quick. Cranberry sauce. Are you out on that jellied, canned?
Listen, I've got yelled at in the past for this. And I've been getting yelled at for some of my Thanksgiving food takes, and I'll get to one now, which I'll see if you argue with me. But I think cranberry sauce is trash. And
it is an abhorrent food that I love and live for. God, oh man, I love that can. Like the cheaper the can, the better, man.
Now I will say, and this again is back to when I was eating meat. The only time I find cranberry sauce acceptable is a very, very, very thin amount of it spread on a sandwich when you do the leftover sandwich.
Great move.
That is it.
It's glue. It's the glue that holds it together.
But again, like I've seen people make those leftover sandwiches and they slab it on. And I can't, for me, it needs to be just the lightest touch.
On a sandwich, yeah, I'll do that. But if I'll eat that shit right out of the can. I don't give a fuck.
I can't.
I don't. And
I do agree that the canned stuff is better.
Well, here's the thing. I forgot to pick it up.
Homemade.
I forgot to pick it up this year, and so I had to have my girlfriend run out and get some more stuff last night. And she went to Trader Joe's, and I was like, "Can you just pick me up some cranberry sauce?" And she was just like, "Okay, weirdo." But she got like a jar of it from there, and I've never seen it in a jar. I've only ever seen it in the can. Like I like when it's got the can rings around it and everything. It adds some character to it. So I'm a little nervous about it, but it's not going to be the main course today. I made some dank mac and cheese last night.
Mac and cheese is always.
Oh, it's always. I make it every year, and like we do with my roommates here. We try to incorporate bacon into as much as possible on Thanksgiving.
Fair.
So, a lot of bacon in there. I got a couple of different kinds of cheeses. It's going to be great. I made it last night. I got to bake it today. It's going to be primo. Four bottles of red wine. Let's get this day going right.
All right. So 2 quick Thanksgiving food takes for you.
Yeah.
Are you in or out on Thanksgiving ham?
I'm in on Thanksgiving ham.
I am way out. I think
I'm a ham, but
horrifically trash.
I'm a baked ham fan. I'm a noted fan of any. I mean, I also worked in delis for a long time, so ham takes aren't. I can eat ham without any real vitriol here, but
Right.
I do like a really good glazed ham. I think it kind of breaks up the Thanksgiving spread a little bit. It helps me take a little bit less of that dry ass turkey on my plate.
I was never a fan of but being completely honest, even when I ate meat, I was never a big turkey guy. Like I would eat 1 to 2 slices of it
Yeah,
just because I felt it was obligatory and I had to. But generally, I'm hammering pasta and sides. Is how my day.
I agree with that.
I just abuse the sides, the mac and cheese, the pasta, the lasagna.
But that's what it's for.
The stuffing.
That's what it's for. That's what Thanksgiving is.
But the turkey I was never really in on, and then ham. I've been out on ham even before I gave up meat. So I can't. It never tasted good to me. I don't get why people enjoy it. But again,
I'm a big ham with I'm not like slices of ham. Like I'm not just gonna go for. But I'm a ham and eggs kind of guy. I'll do a little bit of glazed ham. I could live without a Thanksgiving ham, but you better get me a Christmas ham.
Okay, fair. Don't agree, but fair.
Fair.
And my last food take for you here is, what is the worst pie to eat on Thanksgiving, and why is it pecan pie?
Now, I know you were going to say pecan pie here, and I don't really. In fact, I don't even think we have a Thanksgiving pie this year that we're going to do. But I'm probably more of a fan of the triple berry kind of pie. I like a good fruit filled pie. I don't mind a pecan pie though. And there was one that you put up on Twitter, or whether it was in Slack or something, where it was chocolate bourbon pecan. That sounds delicious to me. I'd eat a slice of that in a heartbeat. Why are you so out on pecan pie?
Listen, and I've been with all my takes. I always try to be open minded. I'm going to get the jokes off first, but then I'm going to be open minded. So I almost got ratioed on that take, which is impressive because I don't have the clout, if you will, to be mega ratioed. I'm not popular enough to have tons of people dunking on me regularly, but
we love it when you do.
But I think that it's trash. I just think it's like eating sugary, buttery rocks. It's just like eating sugar gravel, if you will. And I had a number of people reach out and say, you just haven't had a good one yet, or this is how I make mine. This was why it's a good one. And I want to read through some of those replies really quick, but it's just the ones that I have had have just never been good. They just simply have not, for whatever reason. There's either been too much sugar and butter, or I don't know what the correct way to have it is, because every time I've had it, it just simply has not been good. But to your point about I had a couple people reach out to me talking about the bourbon that they put in with it. So maybe that's a way for it to be saved. I don't know. I can't tell you the ones that I've eaten and why those were terrible or what was used to make them. But the times that I've eaten them, they have been pretty terrible.
Look, man, I'll give it to you. I don't have that heavy of pie takes on Thanksgiving, because I can never make it to dessert on Thanksgiving. Like it's all about the sides. It's all about the sides. Fuck, I don't think I've had. Oh man, I hope they bought gravy.
One guy here said, I make mine like the one you mentioned. He said, I make mine with chocolate, bourbon, and maple syrup. Changes the equation.
Oh, that sounds delicious. That maple syrup seems like everything you need in there.
Now, I don't know if that I would particularly enjoy that, but I think when I know that those are the ingredients, I would be open to trying it. But the ones that I've had, I don't think that that's what was used to be made with it. And a lot of people didn't seem to like it. My favorite reply yesterday that I got to that take was, with all due respect, fuck off into the sun. So fair, started but fair. But for me, I'm just a big sweet potato pie. I'll eat
sweet potato pie is so good.
I don't really have any. I know it's supposed to be sacrilegious to say pumpkin over sweet potato, and I think sweet potato is better. But They're not really all that different.
Love a good pumpkin pie.
Yeah, so either one of those is fine with me. I'll take any fruit pie, to be honest with you. Blueberry, triple berry,
Cherry is a good classic.
Apple pie.
I'll fuck with an apple pie. That's it takes a little bit of the edge off.
But that's pretty much. I mean, I don't really have any. Oh, key lime pie is trash, but that's not a Thanksgiving pie. I don't think. But
mess with key lime.
That's about it. Those are my scorching food takes. I think ham is trash, and I think pecan pie is trash. But outside of that, I think everybody generally enjoys the same foods.
Yeah, I don't have anywhere further to go really with it. I got, we have our disagreements, but generally, I'm not going to fight you too hard on it, man. It's Thanksgiving. It's just all eat. Yeah, so that's what it's all about. All right, you want to plug a couple of things to get out of here?
Yep. So just make sure you obviously visit theknickswall.com. Anthony and a little team of web support folks put together a nice new theme.
Yep.
We built one a couple months ago, but we did it over, and it really just looks top notch and clean and sensational. So
yeah, I'm so much happier with this one.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner. Most of you guys, when you visit the site, you're doing it mobile. The new mobile layout is a lot cleaner, a lot more responsive. So you guys should enjoy that. But the desktop, I almost make it a point to wait to read stuff from our site until I can go to the desktop, because I just enjoy that experience better, because it's just so clean now. But obviously make sure you check, and you know the deal. We have daily features and content that come out all original. So take a look. As always, we need that support. Make sure with this podcast, you guys give us a nice 5-star rating, leave a nice review. We have noticed that those have been going up lately when we've been asking. So
thank you.
Please continue to do that. We're always going to have a new listener here and there. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. But if you enjoyed this, which I hope you did, let us know. Leave us a nice review and a 5-star rating. Outside of that.
And we got, you can follow our podcast account at TKW Podcast. He's at Kyle Maggio. I'm at Wish I Was Corbo. Do we still have to put at in front of our handles these days? It's 2018. Anyway, we're not hot shots or anything. If you got something you disagree with us here, just hit us up. We'll argue with you. We got nothing better to do.
Yep. And last thing, make sure you go check out our TeePublic store. So we've been tweeting out the links. We have a nice little sale for you guys for Thanksgiving, Black Friday week as expected. So make sure you get your holiday shopping done with us. We got our new jersey line that's out. Got most of the players on there. We got ISO Zoe, we got Whole Team Dot, we got the Unicorn, the French Prince. If you don't see somebody on there and you want them there, let us know. But it's a nickname jersey line. We have a lot of the classics still available. The KP Up, the Chris Timms, Porzingis, where it's KP wearing some Timms. We have Take That for Data with Fizdale, the John Starks Dunk shirt, which has been the best seller so far.
Man, I'm wearing that right now.
Yep. And I mean, it's a great design. So I mean, we just got a lot. You guys know the deal from last year, and if you're new here, make sure you go take a look when we tweet the link out a few times today. But just get your holiday shopping done. You're a Knicks fan. Yep. You're going to want that gear. Make sure you tell someone to buy it for you. And you know Knicks fans, so make sure you buy it for that.
I outfitted my whole family last year for Christmas with TKW merch. It was well received. Yep.
So everything's 30% off. So make sure you go in and really take advantage, because I'm not going to say it's pricey otherwise, but when it's just, you got to wait for the sales. Yeah. To be honest. So I mean,
wait for the sales. Stock up then. Save on shipping. That's the way you want to do it. Yep. All right. Anything else, bud?
No, that's all. Just
all right.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your
family. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Listening. Shout out to TeePublic. Shout out to all of you and your beautiful families. Shout out to Puma Hoops.
Shout out to Puma Hoops.
And
the game.
Yeah, incredible. All right, and we will talk to you all after Sunday's game against the... Who are we playing on Sunday? Whatever. We'll talk to you after Sunday's game. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. See you later.
Happy Thanksgiving. Later.